searching the web for the most talented, creative, and intriguing independent authors.
Master, your stories are ready.
Oh, goody. The Emit Blackwell Show, diving into the creative minds of sci-fi, fantasy, horror, and paranormal authors. Their fantasy is our reality. Hi, this is Emit Blackwell, and I am back again with a very special guest to launch our Literary Heroes section. This is Eeva Lancaster. She is a book manager, a writer, an editor, and a book cover designer. And she has written the book Being Indie, a no-holds-barred self-publishing guide for fiction. And I want to warn everybody from the beginning. All right, this is some very good content. We've been talking for the last 25-30 minutes about what Eeva does in order to help prepare people for their book. And she holds nothing back. So be ready, all right? And here we are. Eeva, how are you doing today?
Hi, Emit. Thank you for having me here. I'm doing fine, thanks.
All right, so the question on my mind, when I first contacted you, okay, my first thought was, what is a book manager? What encompasses that name and that title?
Well, I think for the publishing industry, my definition of a book manager would be a virtual assistant, publishing expert, all combined into one, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So that's a book manager. For my clients, as a book manager, okay, I make sure that they have presence. I develop their author platforms, okay? I update the manuscripts constantly. I design all the collaterals for their marketing and all of that.
Okay.
So I think it's more than what a literary agent does.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's actually, it's kind of surprising because I was going to compare you to a literary agent, and we were talking about this earlier before the show, is that you do so much more than a literary agent. A literary agent does one tiny piece of the actual publishing process, but you do a lot more than that because in the traditional sense, a publishing company would actually be separating what you do out into delegated jobs, and they would not allow one single person to do all this. So we do appreciate all the work you do.
Thank you.
So, and then in the crazy mindset of everything, I mean, Eeva, you have to think in the way that a lot of these authors think, and the way that I think is, why in the world would you take on so much? What inspired you to do this?
For the love of books. I love books, and I'm still amazed at how these writers come up with these stories.
Mm-hmm.
As a reader before, I never saw the back end of creating a book, But now in this industry, since I started, working with authors, I see the book when it's still raw.
Yeah.
And I just can't imagine how they come up with these stories. And I love that. I love that being with them while they develop the books. So, that's the reason why I got into book management. But I don't really, accept everyone as a client. I want to make sure that when I tell the author, give me your book and I'll do everything I can to make it succeed.
Mm-hmm.
Then that's a big responsibility, and I want to make sure that I'm going to deliver.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's one thing that's really commendable about what you do is because it's almost as though you are building up a business plan on how you're going to market this thing, but it has to be marketable beforehand, right? I mean, what types of steps go into making sure you hit that point before all the marketing and the sharing and the social media, everything? What types of steps should an author take, at least right now, to make it sellable?
How can you make a book sellable? Well, first of all, it should be well written, because that's the whole point. You're selling content, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's about the story. But it's not just about the story. It's about how you serve the story. Okay? Let's say, for example, I'm a good cook.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So I made this really good spaghetti. I know it's very delicious, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, it's the most delicious spaghetti ever. Okay.
I'm eating it right now.
And
It's so good. No.
okay, and then so I put it on the floor. Okay.
Hmm.
And then I tell my customer, taste it. It's really, really, really good spaghetti.
Hmm.
Will they do it? Of course not, because you're not serving it properly, right?
Hmm.
So this sir, how you present, how an author presents the book is as important as the book itself.
Hmm. So then you
Okay,
got
so
so you got the editing and the stuff like that, the way that you produce your content, and then you get to the point to where you are presenting it to the world. What types of things even go into that? I mean, what if I'm a reader, okay, and I'm looking for a book, and I walk into, let's say, a Barnes and Noble or a Borders Books or whatever, and I'm looking for something to read. What are the first few things I'm even going to look for?
yeah, as a reader, you don't notice these things because to a reader, a book has a standard.
Hmm.
You know, it has to have a standard. So they only find out about whether the book is of low quality after they read it or while they're reading it. You know,
Hmm.
before indie publishing, if a reader buys a book, she or he can be assured that it's going to be high quality,
Hmm.
right? It's the cover is great, the formatting is great, the editing is great, so there's no doubt there. But right now, proliferation of indie books on Amazon, readers are very wary of what they buy.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I don't blame them because there really are books out there that were published even with blood still there, you know.
Hmm.
It hasn't been edited, not formatted. The author decided to design their own cover. So it's totally raw.
Hmm.
So then the reader gets burned. But they don't really the reader doesn't think about editing, formatting, book cover design. They don't think about this, right? They
Yeah.
expect that the books that they're going to read is of the same standard as what they're used to reading.
Yeah, and that's one thing too, because the publishers, I mean, the mainstream publishers, they put a lot of energy and a lot of effort into producing a book that is sellable and actually acceptable out there on the market. Now, because of what you do, you're kind of doing a lot of that too, but you've also written a book, that being indie, no holds barred self-publishing guide for fiction, that gives you kind of those tips to get started in a way, to kind of get the gears moving. Because yes, as an independent author, you're going to do a lot of this work yourself. You're going to need help, because once you take your transcript and give it to an editor, and they are going to mash that thing up, they're going to have so many red marks on that is going to be unbelievable. It's going to be like being in high school again. When you get all those corrections back, and it seems like, they want you to almost take your book into a whole nother direction that you don't want to take, you have to be open to those ideas, because if not, people will not be purchasing your books, because it's not something that they want to read, because it's not sellable. And that's the whole concept, is sellable. Is it marketable? That may be true, but is it sellable in the first place? And
Absolutely.
yeah, and that's another thing too that we talked about earlier, is the whole marketing scheme. Okay? Out there in the world right now, and this may be a very controversial topic. It may be very controversial because we're putting it on YouTube, we're putting it on the podcast, and it's definitely going to be on Twitter. So here's the thing. You can market anything. Okay? You can market anything, throw it out there, that's great. But unless it's got real good content and it's been produced in the right way, you can market to people who don't even exist. And some of those people who are out there listening right now, I'm sorry if this is a big old kick of reality, but it's true. Sometimes, and I'm sure Eeva can agree with me, you can purchase followers. You can purchase retweets. You can purchase all those kinds of things, but what is it doing? Is it doing anything good for the reader? Is it doing anything good for the author? And I kind of want to get your idea on how you see that whole world working. Eeva, what do you see out there that kind of disturbs you as far as the marketing side?
Okay, so we all know that authors, need to have. I mean, they have a whole new industry has cropped up because of an author's need to sell the book.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and their fear that it's not going to sell. Okay, so there are a lot of advertising businesses there who will offer to advertise the book. Some are even promising bestsellers.
Oh, yeah.
So, but what I want, my book being indie, it's not just about it's not a how-to book, you know. It's more like I want to change an author's mindset.
Mm-hmm.
I want them to realize why they're doing these things, and how people can take advantage of that, of their fears and their desires.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a whole new industry here who's offering to promote the book and make it a bestseller, but that's not really true. So on Twitter, for example, somebody can offer you, okay, I'm going to tweet your book to my 1 million followers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So since followers can be bought, they can be bought. How sure are you that the tweets are really reaching anyone?
Mm-hmm.
So one of the ways to do this, which I also discuss in my book being indie, is that go look at their profiles.
Mm-hmm.
Is anyone arting the tweet? Is it getting any kind of response? Before you buy the service, you have to take a look at these things first.
Mm-hmm.
Because our goal is to reach the readers. Okay, we don't want anything fake, because then that'll be just a waste of time, right?
Yeah.
So let's not allow this fake things to stoke our egos, because it's going to be a waste of money, a waste of time. And authors should be wiser than that, because the money that they're spending on marketing promotion, they could spend it on their book instead.
Mm-hmm.
Have it developed. So just because your friend is doing it doesn't mean that you should do it too. An author should do the required research before they start getting into things.
Yeah, and that's true, because it's almost like preaching to the choir too. You can go ahead and you can do it the right way. You can do it without a whole bunch of purchasing of followers, but then you're kind of stuck in a niche where you're advertising to other authors, which is great because you can bounce ideas off of each other, which is just amazing when it comes to independent authorship. But the harsh reality is that you start preaching to the choir and everybody's in the same boat. So how do you get out there and say, you know what? I understand that we all kind of like my story idea. That's great. You guys are all authors, so you know how much work I've put into this. But how do we get into that next stage where we say, okay, my book is definitely at the sellable level. Then what? What should I be doing next in order to help get it out to a larger audience?
Well, you should go where the audience is.
Yeah.
Right? So, for example, I believe that indie authors, especially first-timers, should only concentrate on one publishing platform. So, for example, Amazon. Okay, concentrate on Amazon first. Okay, because Amazon is where the readers are, right?
Yeah.
So if you want to find true readers, then you have to conquer Amazon first
Oh, yeah.
before you start expanding to other platforms like Barnes and Nobles or iBook or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to take advantage of the reader base of Amazon first. I think that's the secret to true bestsellers.
And that's another thing, too, is we've had a couple of authors here on the show who don't just follow the internet path. They might have a marketing team that does already do this, and that's great. You guys are advanced in what you do. But they're also getting out there in the public. They're also talking to their readers. They're going out to these book conventions. And yes, I can understand it's going to cost you a little bit of money, but that's where you're putting your money where your mouth is you're putting that money into the table booth that you're purchasing for the day, and you're selling and engaging with your readers. Great way to do it, because not only do for example, with your book management, you're doing the internet side, the visual side, everything that kind of happens on the internet. But there's no way that you, Eeva, would ever be able to set up a book convention that people could go ahead and sit at and things like that, because that needs to be the author's responsibility. They need to take that money that they would have spent on, 500 plus followers on Twitter and take it and put it into something real, like purchasing the renting of a table at a convention. Put your money where your audience is. Don't put it somewhere where it's just going to give you a little bit of, credibility that doesn't really exist. Do you kind of agree with me?
Yes, I agree. Just to give an example, Emit. So, for example, author A, Author A really wants to sell her books. It's not selling, Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody offers her a landing page, for example. Let me create a landing page for you so that, interested readers would have some place to go and, they'll see your book and then they'll buy it. Yeah. They charge around $200 for it, for the landing page. So is that really necessary? Like, it's not necessary, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you already have a landing page on Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
See, the book page is a landing page.
Oh yeah.
See, but author A takes it up because she's so intent and to sell her books that she'd do anything. So these are really unnecessary expenses that a lot of authors fall for.
Mm-hmm.
So this and totally unnecessary, and which is these are the things that I'm going to discuss in my next book, and I hope not a lot of people hate me for it. But sometimes I find out and say, I mean, how much did you pay for this? And it's like $200. I mean, what's it for?
Yeah.
It's not helping the book any. So, I mean, how do you sell a book? What do you really need to do for it, to sell it? After you do all the necessary book development steps, like creating a really good cover, having it formatted, having it edited. After that, you don't really need to spend a lot of money to get it out there. You just have to be consistent, and you just have to know where to do it.
Yeah.
What really moves the needle.
Yeah, and that's one thing too, Eeva. When it comes to the way that, I mean, we've been talking, like we talked a little bit before the show, and now we're talking now. The fact that you are a book manager, a writer, and an editor, okay? You have services available for people if they want to purchase them. And the thing is you are not promoting those services. You're basically saying, you know what? Put your money where it's going to work best. And that's the greatest thing, because we see a lot of marketers out there who are like, we are the ones who are going to make you a #1 best hit seller. You're not claiming that, and I appreciate that, because that's exactly what the readers and the authors need to know, is that it's more about the content. And with your book being indie, and I encourage everybody out there to at least check this out, and I would say just get it. I just got it not too long ago because it also helps with our show too when it comes to marketing. And I'll just tell you guys right now that Eeva is really true to what she has to say. She's not going to tout you up. She's not going to make you feel great just because you're somebody giving her money if you do provide or buy services from her. She's going to give you the hard truth. And here on the Emit Blackwell show, we have not yet had that kind of experience, and we adore it. I really love having you on the show, Eeva, because you're really giving it the hard truth of what is really going on with the independent industry. And I'm sure that just about every one of those authors out there right now who are listening are saying to themselves, that little voice in the back of their head that's saying, yeah, maybe I should look at my business plan again. Maybe I should look at how I'm presenting this. Maybe I should check out my content. Maybe I need a little bit of editing, and probably maybe a new book cover design. I'm not saying yeah.
Yeah, but Emit, in my 4 years in this industry, I realized that what authors really need is validation. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
They don't like to hear criticism.
Yeah, and that can be hard too. Nobody really likes to hear criticism. But what
That's
moves
right.
the
So,
needle? Yeah.
But my point is this, okay? Before we can come up with solutions, we have to identify the problems first.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So when I talk about these problems, it shouldn't be seen as a negative thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because an author who really wants to sell her books or his books would be open to these criticisms. It's not personal, okay?
Yeah.
I keep saying this. It's not personal. It's all about the book.
Oh yeah.
So, if you really love the book so much, then this is what the book needs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? You need to hear criticism. You need to know what is wrong with it that's keeping it from selling. And then so you can, take positive actions towards your goal. Otherwise, then, we're just fooling ourselves.
Yeah.
Wasting money, wasting time, and feeling depressed about it because you feel like you're not doing enough. When actually you're doing so much and spending so much, but you're not spending and doing things the right way.
Yeah. And that's the thing is, the fact that you are on the show and the fact that you have kind of really given a harsh reality that every one of us at some point in time have said, you know what, maybe I should think about these things. You've kind of put this in your book, being indie, because you wanted to produce something that was a no-holds-bar, here's the harsh reality kind of thing, and I do appreciate that. And
this book is as much for me as for the authors.
yeah, exactly. It keeps you on point.
These are the things that I keep to myself, but it really bothers me, and so that's why I wrote this book.
Mm-hmm.
So I just don't want anybody telling me that you didn't say anything. I tried to give advice, but it's not always welcome.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks that they know everything about everything. Because their friends are doing it, everybody's doing it, they should be doing it too. But then you hear all the whining, oh, how come I'm not selling? How come I'm not selling? But you're not really asking yourself the real questions, because many don't want to hear the answer.
Yeah.
So that's the whole point of being indie is I wanted to change the author's mindsets.
Mm-hmm.
After the end, when you write the end, you stop being a writer right there.
Yeah.
See, you shift from being a writer to being a business person.
Oh yeah.
The book becomes a product, so you have to do everything you can to make that product sellable. It should be market ready.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that includes all the content. Yeah.
Challenge starts. This is where the challenge starts, because it's not to get these services, to get everything that your book needs. It's not cheap.
Oh yeah.
Okay? Self-publishing is free. Of course, you can publish anywhere and for free. But to publish a really high quality book, it costs a lot. Editors cost a lot. Cover design. But there are people out there who can help you. Really good. They're freelancers who can help you, and you just have to find them. You have to come up with your own team that's affordable, that fits in your budget, while still producing quality work. Okay.
Yeah, and that's why we're having you here on this Literary Heroes section. I mean, the fact that we are going to be looking for freelancers, artists, illustrators, the whole shebang, we're going to be looking for them. We're going to be seeing what we can find out. And I'm not saying that these services are going to fit for your budget. All I'm saying is it does give you that idea that you need to start looking. Once you've hit that point to where your book is sellable, you've done all the work you can do, let your readers decide, okay? Let's go with example of R.L. Stine, okay? R.L. Stine produced the Goosebumps series, and I know everybody out there loved it. It started with the Scholastic-Book Publishing Company, which is, in a way, the most gigantic of all children's publishers in the world, okay? But when it came out, it actually didn't have a whole lot of marketing. And a lot of that's because there was hardly any social media. It wasn't put on TV. We would get these little newspaper print book flyers in school, and that was about the only marketing it had. It would go on a shelf, and that was about it. Now, everything that went up to that, all the editing, all the content, all the producing the book cover was done by Scholastic and their team. Okay, once it got out there, who made that decision? It was the readers on what this book was going to do and how it was going to move forward. You didn't have kids walking in there with sunglasses on and being paid by the school to go purchase a book. No, they weren't. It was just the readers who said, you know what, I'm going to tell my friend about this book because it's really cool. Then little Jimmy goes out and buys the book too. So, or at least they beg their parents over and over again to buy the book. But it's almost like what you were saying is having it market ready by that point allows you to then open up the door to have it marketed. And then those marketers can come and say, you know what, now we can start marketing this book because you're open to different changes that the market needs to take this in. And like I said before, everything that you've done in your book, being indie, like you said, is a little bit more for you too. It's good because that means that you've put in the research, not because you were looking for the easy answers. It was because you were looking for the right answers.
Authors, I also want to encourage authors to learn how to manage perceptions.
Mm-hmm.
Because as an indie author, nobody knows us, right?
Yeah.
Nobody cares about our work. Sometimes not even family.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can't even, tell them to leave a book review and they will, right? So all I'm saying is managing perceptions is very important.
Mm-hmm.
how you present the book, how you present yourself, how you present your brand, you know, all this combined, this is what contributes to a sale.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to be known as an author worth reading, then you have to spend time and learn about these things.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't have to be. You don't have to do a gazillion things to do this. Actually, there are just certain steps that you follow, and once you follow them and you've done all of them, you can just proceed to your next book and then do the same things all over again.
Mm-hmm.
And if the book is really good, if it finds its readers, then that's all the marketing it needs, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I do
Because
appreciate that you've been on the show talking about that because, for one, I mean, let's just be frank here, Eeva. You could have came on this show and talked about how your services are the only good services on the market, how nobody beats your packages, and I'll tell you right now, you've been extremely honest with this audience, and you've even said, make sure you put your money where it needs to go. Don't just throw it somewhere because they say they're the best marketing company. And that right there, I mean, anybody who's listening right now, that right there is golden.
right. So and you have to be able to discern
Mm-hmm.
what is good,
Yeah.
because that's sometimes, from what I see, that's the problem here. What is good? I mean, all you have to do, for example, let's take a book cover, for example. Okay. So all you need to do to know if the design of your book cover is good is to look at Amazon,
Oh, yeah.
right? Compare your books in your genre to the other books, to your book, to your cover. I mean, what does it look like? Does it look like The Poor Relation? You know.
Mm-hmm.
So from there, you should be able to discern. Okay, I need a new cover, right? So we should be able to, for you to know what services you need to pay for, and what is the best thing for your budget. You have to be able to identify which are good services. So
Mm-hmm.
not just because your friend says this is good, it's good. You have to be able to decide that for yourself, because, like I told you a while ago, there seems to be a lack of honest criticism in this industry.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think everybody wants to help everybody else, so everyone's awesome. Okay,
Yeah.
so that is really not good for creatives and writers, because we need to be able to discern really which ones are good and which ones to use. Because all of this will have an effect on the book.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't really understand how sometimes authors can allow their books to be on Amazon with a really bad cover, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So when you go to Amazon, don't you see it?
Oh, yeah.
Beside all the other covers there. I mean, authors spend so much time writing. I mean, that's why I said this is my book is about for fiction authors, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they spent all that time writing the book, and then when it comes to crunch time, when they start presenting it, then they have a failure of judgment.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It just makes me so sad and frustrated. I'm very passionate about this because, okay, so I'm not saying I'm the best designer there is, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But, for example, in one of my services, let me give you an example. I offer a cover design for $10,
Mm-hmm.
okay? So the author just needs to give me the image that, they want to use on the cover, and I will design the fonts and all that
Mm-hmm.
and make it look professional, okay? $10 is all you need for a pro-looking cover, right? So
Mhm.
instead of doing it yourself, yeah, I mean, the authors know about these services because, I'm very active on social media.
Mm-hmm.
So I tell them about this, that for $10, you can have your cover looking like a pro, you know. So it doesn't really follow that I really can't accept that authors don't have their covers designed because it's expensive. There are very expensive designers, but there are also cheap ones.
Mm-hmm.
So what authors need to do is find someone who can give them what they need for the lowest price possible, and then keep that on their team.
Mm-hmm.
This applies to editors, cover designers, formatters. Try them once, and then if you love them, then keep them.
Yeah, and
Look
that's
for the lowest price service there is there, and but without compromising quality. Okay,
yeah.
so find the lowest service, and then keep these people. Save up, I mean, we save for cell phones and all that stuff. I mean, I'm surely we can save for the book, right?
Yeah, yeah. And that's another thing too, is it's almost like reinvesting back into your business. You know,
It is an investment.
yeah. Well, say for example, this year you decide you're going to spend $10 on the book cover with the same book cover designer. Then you come back after 2 years of this book doing fairly well, and you want a better book cover. Okay, you can go ahead and do that. But now you might be able to put forth maybe $120 for that book cover because you're reinvesting in your business. You're reinvesting in your brand. And it's a great way to get your idea out there and be able to say, you know what, now that I've been working with these people for almost a year, they're more willing to work with me. And I've built up this team of freelance individuals who are copy editors, who are book cover designers, who basically will help me market my book. And that right there is your team, you know, and it really does kind of make a difference.
Yeah. So also when authors are looking for freelancers, they should understand first what the book needs. Okay. So for example, you just need a simple cover design. Okay. Why should you pay, let's say, $200 for a simple cover design? Why don't you find, you know, an acceptable cover designer and have them design your simple cover? You get what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, so if this person who is charging lower than what this person is charging can do the same kind of cover, why should you go for the more expensive one?
Yeah. It's about being thrifty, you know,
Yeah,
just
because
like any business owner.
there's so many ways in which where you can put your money that will serve it, that have better results rather than just, okay, so I saw this cover designer, this was recommended to me, my friend uses this, I'm gonna use that person too. Okay, but you never really thought about what you needed, what the book needed. Maybe it didn't need that cover designer. Maybe it only needed this cover designer who charges for a cheaper, I mean, lower price, right? So authors need to be street savvy like this. That's why my book is like that. Be a savvy street smart indie author, because they should be wiser. Because they're spending money out of their own pocket. It's not like a publisher gave them a large advance for the book. So
Yeah.
find the team that fits your budget and can deliver what the book needs. And if you find a team like that, then most of your problems are solved now. Because I see authors who go back and forth on the book. Go first, they chose this, they didn't have it edited. They got this crappy cover designer, and then a few years back they have to redo it all over again. Now they have to change the cover and have it re-edited and have it formatted. So it never stops. So just do it one time. Then forget about it, and then move on to your next book.
Oh, yeah. Well, I would like to thank you once again for being here on the show. You've really kind of opened up some doors for a lot of people. Even though it may not happen right now, it's probably going to happen sometime down the road when that voice gets loud enough to where it says, I need to do some more on my business plan, some more on my editing, my content, my book design, my whole shebang. And I want to encourage everybody out there to check out Being Indie, a no-holds-barred self-publishing guide for fiction, to at least get those gears going. And Eeva, thank you so much for being here on the show today.
You're so welcome, Emit, for the opportunity.
No.
And I encourage you to read Being Indie, because I'm a much better writer than I am a speaker. I'm so nervous. This interview really made me so nervous. This is the first time I meet, so thank you. Thank you.
No problem. Don't be nervous. You're in good company here, and I appreciate you being on the show. And this is Emit Blackwell once again signing out. Keep on reading and keep on writing, my friends.
Searching the web for the most talented, creative, and intriguing independent authors.
Master, your stories are ready.
Ooh, goody. The Emit Blackwell Show, diving into the creative minds of sci-fi, fantasy, horror, and paranormal authors. Their fantasy is our reality.